Morning children. Yesterday we were already started the discussion with respect to the gametogenesis. I told you what is the meaning of gametogenesis? The process of formation of gametes in gonads, or we can also say the primary sex organs, is called gametogenesis, isn't it? That means the process of formation of gametes in gonads is called gametogenesis. It includes two types, namely spermatogenesis and oogenesis. Yesterday we were already discussed about the spermatogenesis with respect to the process, phenomena, the flow chart. Also we were discussed about the structure of the sperm, isn't it? Yeah. Today we will continue the topic oogenesis. Okay. Yeah. So we will continue the gametogenesis. That means the oogenesis process. Yeah. So first of all, here also let me to define what is the meaning of oogenesis. It can be also asked as in the form of the question, define oogenesis. What is the meaning of oogenesis? Also, the process of formation of ovum or egg in the follicle of ovary is called oogenesis. Okay. So let me to repeat once again. The process of formation of ovum or egg in the follicle of ovary is called oogenesis. Okay? Yes. So this wonderful mechanism or the phenomena, that means the oogenesis is initiated during the embryonic development stage. Remember, so this oogenesis is initiated during the embryonic development stage. Okay, and when a couple of million gamete mother cells, that means oogonia, are formed within each fetal ovary. Okay, and very important one, the no more oogonia are formed and added after birth. Remember, this is very important. Okay, so whatever the number it is added in the, so earlier only during embryonic development only, that is the fixed number. So after that one, that means no more oogonia are formed and added after the birth. And these cells are dividing and enters into process first of meiosis and get temporarily arrested at the stage called primary oocytes. Remember, so this is the process first. Just recall the process of the meiosis first. In the last year what we were discussed. Okay, so that's what here it's also. So these cells, so that means oogonia, these cells start dividing and enters into the process first of meiosis and get temporarily arrested, means temporarily stopped at the stage called primary oocytes. Okay, and here very important one, remember when it comes to the number also, so here it is very important one, so that each primary oocyte gets surrounded by a layer of granulosa cells and then called primary follicles. Okay, and a large number of follicles degenerate during the phase of, that means phase from birth to puberty. Okay, so that means a large number of follicles degenerate, means disappears during the phase from birth to the puberty. Therefore, at puberty only 60 to 80, that means 60,000 to 80,000 primary follicles are left in each ovary. Did you get it? Yeah. So what about the remaining things? What happens? So that means each primary oocyte gets whatever is surrounded by the granulosa cells, and that's called primary follicles. So that means a large number of these follicles disappears. That means degenerate during the phase from birth to the puberty. Okay, did you got it? Yeah. And here you can identify the different stages also from the beginning. Okay, so you can identify beginning from the primary follicle, then the primary ovary, then it will be follicle cells, primary oocyte, follicular fluid, the first polar body, corona radiata, zona pellucida, secondary oocyte, then the uterine tube, ovulation, corpus luteum, and corpus albicans. So these are all things I think you can identify easily. Okay? Yes. So let me to continue the discussion with respect to the process, how it will be. Okay? So the development of the ovarian follicles, actually the primary follicle gets surrounded by some layers of granulosous cells and a new theca, that means a layer, okay, and are called secondary follicles. Okay, then, and the secondary follicle soon transforms into a tertiary follicle. That means it will be converted or it will be transformed. Okay, the secondary follicle soon transform into a tertiary follicle, which is characterized by a fluid-filled cavity is called antrum. Okay, I hope you can identify the structure and the layers also. Here it is given in the diagram clearly. Yeah, observe clearly. Okay, then, and what happens the next stage? What will happen? So here the secondary follicle soon transforms into a tertiary follicle, which is characterized by a fluid-filled cavity called antrum, right? Yeah. So the theca layer is organized into two layers, that is nothing but inner theca interna and outer theca externa. Did you get it? You just identify. You can easily here identify the tertiary follicle diagram. Okay, theca externa and theca interna. Isn't it? Yes. At this stage, what happens exactly? Okay, so at this stage, the primary oocyte with the tertiary follicle grows in size and completes its first meiotic division. That's what I said. Okay, the meiotic division here it will take place in the two stages, right? Isn't it? During the maturation, there is a meiosis first and meiosis second. In this stage, okay, in this stage, what happens? The first meiotic division will be takes place. Okay, and it is an unequal division, resulting in the formation of a large haploid secondary oocyte and a tiny first polar body. Okay, yeah. So this is the completion of the first meiotic division. Then what will happen the next? The secondary oocyte retains bulk of the nutrient-rich cytoplasm of the primary oocyte. So, and here one more question they can also ask, what is Graafian follicle? The tertiary follicle further changes into a mature follicle is called Graafian follicle. Okay, what is Graafian follicle? During the oogenesis, the tertiary follicle the further changes into a mature follicle is called Graafian follicle. Okay, then what will be the next? What will happen? The secondary oocyte forms a new membrane. So this membrane is also called zona pellucida. So this zona pellucida is surrounding it. Okay, I hope you can identify the diagram, the Graafian follicle structure. That is a fully mature follicle. There you can identify then. And here the secondary oocyte forms a new membrane is called zona pellucida, isn't it? Then the Graafian follicle now ruptures to release the secondary oocyte. So this is called ovum from the ovary, and that is lodged at the ampullary isthmic region. So this process is called ovulation. Okay, so what do you call this process? So this process is called ovulation. Did you get it? Yes, the Graafian follicle, when it ruptures to release the secondary oocyte from the ovary, it is lodged at the ampullary isthmic region. So there is nothing but fallopian tube. This process is called ovulation. Did you get it? Yeah. So here, as I said in briefly, the primary oocyte in the tertiary follicle, grows and undergoes the first unequal meiotic division to form a large haploid secondary oocyte and tiny polar body. Then the secondary oocyte retains the nutrient-rich cytoplasm of the primary oocyte, and it is unknown that whether the first polar body divides further or degenerates. Till now, there are few things it is not known. Okay, so it is also one of the things that is nothing but it is unknown that the first polar body divides further or degenerates. Okay, because this is till now we are not studying. I mean, it is not studied by a scientist. Okay, research is going on, but I mean exactly. So we don't have the answers for this. Okay, and as I said, the tertiary follicle further changes into the mature follicle. That's what we call the graphene follicle, and the secondary oocyte forms a new membrane is called zona pellucida. I hope you can identify here in detail this the diagram, the structure and laws. The left side they were given, isn't it? And finally, what will happen? The ovulation. The graphene follicle now ruptures to release the secondary oocyte. Okay, so here the step by step again they were given the with explanation, isn't it? Yes. Okay, yeah. So let me summarize the whole process. Okay, so before that, let me define the process of ovulation. The release of ovum or secondary oocyte from the ovary or graphene follicle enlarging deposited at the ampullary isthmic region or fallopian tube is called ovulation, because the ovulation generally they can ask the 1 mark question also. So that's why I'm telling repeatedly. Okay, yeah. So but before I am going to summarize this whole process, just observe this, whatever they have given the flow chart. Okay, observe this flow chart. Did you observe this one? Yes? Yeah. The first cell, okay, for the first cell, whatever they are given, that is nothing but oogonia or oogonium. It is also known as egg mother cell. Actually, it is containing 2N. That is nothing but the chromosome number is diploid 46. So what happens next? Then which is undergo mitosis, isn't it? So this stage it is also known as the multiplication phase, isn't it? Yes. So then what is the meaning of this multiplication phase? Okay, let me tell you briefly. The multiplication phase is nothing but during fetal development, some of the diploid germinal epithelial cells divide repeatedly by mitosis, producing a large number of oogonial cells or egg mother cells. Is also known as multiplication phase. Okay, and it is fixed number of oogonia. This form when the fetus reaches, that means 25 weeks. No more oogonia are produced after birth, isn't it? Yes. And which is undergo the mitotic stages, which produces many oogonia, right? Then after that one, it is undergo the growth phase. Okay, the growth phase. Here the growth phase, that means nothing but primary oocyte. Now it will be given stage to the primary oocyte only. Then actually here they have given the form of primary to primary. How it will be? So that primary oocyte will be given stage to the secondary oocyte. Okay. Yes. When it will be actually undergoing the primary oocyte to the primary oocyte, so that is nothing but growth phase. What it will happen is, this phase begins when the female attains the puberty. Remember, when the growth phase attains, this phase begins when the female attains the puberty. That means when the menstrual cycle get activated. Okay, then so about the menstrual cycle we will discuss in the further topics only in the same chapter only. Okay, yeah. Now, and in this growth phase, each diploid primary oocyte enlarges and stores reserve food materials. Okay, so that is in the form of extracted from surrounding the follicle cells. And remember, the only one primary oocyte matures per month. During one cycle, that is nothing but the menstrual, that is a menstrual cycle, it's about 28 to 29 days. Within that, only one primary oocyte matures per one cycle or per month. Now what happens the next stage? Yes, the next phase is nothing but maturation phase. Okay, so this maturation phase, what will happen during the maturation phase, each diploid primary oocyte undergoes meiotic division. Okay, now the first meiotic division in reductional form, so that means that 2 N's get converted into N, where diploid nucleus also divides into 2 haploid nuclei, but due to unequal cytokinesis, that means equally, okay, cytoplasm will not divide. One will become large, one will become small. That means the 2 unequal sized haploid cells are formed. Okay, so because of this, the process, a large secondary oocyte and a small polar body forms. Okay, so that means a polar body will be smaller and secondary oocyte will be larger. So now, which is moves towards the further process, that is nothing but the second meiotic division is generally arrested at metaphase. That is metaphase second stage here, and does not enter into the further until the sperm penetrates. Remember, this is very important. This topic they can ask in the competitive also. When will be the exactly sperm penetrates? Okay, that means the second meiotic division is generally arrested. That means temporarily stopped at metaphase second and does not enters into the further stage until the sperm penetrates. Once that means the sperm enters or penetrates, immediately it will move towards the further stage. So ovulation occurs at the secondary oocyte stage. At the end of oogenesis, secondary oocyte divides and produces 2 unequal sized cells, that is one single large haploid functional ovum and small second polar body. Okay, finally polar bodies are disintegrated. Finally, that is polar bodies are disintegrated. Okay, and the meiosis second will be completed only if the egg is fertilized. You got it? Now, if you just discuss about the structure of the ovum or the egg, how it will be. Actually, the egg or ovum, it is spherical and non-motile. It is a female gamete, isn't it? And the size is about 0.2 mm in diameter. The ovum has 3 membranes. The first membrane, the plasma membrane, is also known as olemma. It is actually innermost layer. Then that is zona pellucida, the zonanis layer. The outer to the plasma membrane is nothing but zona pellucida. I hope we can identify. Here the right side they were given neatly. Then corona radiata, the outer layer formed of follicle cells, is called corona radiata. Of course, you can also identify the structure of the nucleus. Then the plasma membrane, the first polar body also, along with cytoplasm. Okay, did you get it? Yes. And here, after this process, actually the question arises. Okay, what are the differences between? As I said in the beginning, the gametogenesis. Okay, so the gametogenesis, the process of formation of gametes in the gonads, that is the primary sex organ, is called gametogenesis. It includes the two types, namely spermatogenesis and oogenesis. But this question they can also ask for the minimum 4 to 5 marks question. Differentiate between spermatogenesis and oogenesis. Okay, so here are the the differences I have given. Along with it also we can discuss 3-4 points more also. For example, here the spermatogenesis. What is spermatogenesis? It occurs in the seminiferous tubules of the testes, isn't it? And what about oogenesis? It occurs in the follicle of ovaries. Or if you take a singular, then it occurs in the follicle of ovary. Now, and do you remember? The fertilized cells are associated in the spermatogenesis, isn't it? But what about the oogenesis? The fertilized cells are not associated. Yes, then it is actually a limited growth phase during the spermatogenesis. What about oogenesis? It is elaborated growth phase. And also, during spermatogenesis, each primary oocyte gives 4 sperms. And you know it is very well right because it is a meiosis, right? Yes. But what about oogenesis? Each primary oocyte gives only 1 functional ovum. The remaining will be degenerated in the form of the polar bodies, isn't it? That means here polar bodies are not produced during spermatogenesis, but in case of the oogenesis, polar bodies are formed. Yes. Yes. That means the spermatids undergo metamorphosis to convert into the sperms, isn't it? But what about in case of the oogenesis? After secondary meiosis, secondary oocyte produces a functional ovum. And what about the process when it begins? The spermatogenesis begins at puberty and extends up to the senility. But what about the oogenesis? It begins at the embryonic stage but suspends up to the puberty. It ceases around the age of 50. Okay, that means the stoppage of menstrual cycle. Okay, and remember the process of spermiogenesis is also present in case of spermatogenesis. Do you remember? Yes. What is nothing but spermiogenesis? The transformation or differentiation of spermatids into spermatozoa or sperms is called spermiogenesis, isn't it? But what about in case of oogenesis? The spermiogenesis process is absent. Did you get it? So these are all the differences between the spermatogenesis and oogenesis. So in sometimes they can also ask in the form of the differentiate between sperm and ovum also. So I have given those things in your notes. You please go through it. Okay, so let it be. Next class we will continue the remaining things. Thank you. Have a nice day.